But again, I do believe this is the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Greason?
Well, I disagree with it because you didn't call for Mr. McCullen's outburst on December 5th when he was still at town council. You asked for nothing. You weren't at the briefing. You was the mayor. George was.
I would love to respond to that.
Wait. Let Mr. Greason have his
I thought you
say.
asked me a question.
That's fine.
I'm telling you, you didn't ask for a censor with Mr. McCullen. Is it different because of politics? Is my question. And that's all I have to say about it. There was 3 times when you were mayor, he made comments to people. You overlooked it. So why is it changing now? Is my question.
My answer is that. Hold on. One at a time. Everyone gets a chance to speak, and then we circle back.
I mean, he was at a briefing and had an outburst, and one of the staff members had to call him down. You didn't say a word.
That's not true. I'll speak later.
Yes.
You get to speak. I'm finished.
May I respond?
Yes.
My answer to that is I'm concerned about the standards of this council that I've been part of since December 1st. And by my count, we have 1,344 days left in my term. I don't know about others. And I think that this council, and I don't really know or want to spend time on the past, because the past is the past. This is about this council and this council's standards and behaviors. So bringing up the past, okay, whatever happened. I had nothing to do with that. I do have something to do about this council and have impact on this council. So your question about the past, I consider to be okay, but in the past and not relative to this council's behavior and standards for the remaining 1,344 days.
Schneider, would you like to respond?
Sure. At the town council meeting, there was an outburst, and immediately in response to that outburst, Mr. Stone, who was not yet sworn in as a council member, started standing up and said, "Would you like to take it outside?" I immediately said, "Stop it, both of you, you're acting like 9-year-olds," or something to that effect. That was also not a public meeting, so later in the day, so the code of ethics doesn't apply in quite the same way because it really focuses on the public discharge of the duties. But later in the day, Mr. Stone called me and asked me why I hadn't made Mr. McClellan apologize. And I said, well, if I was going to ask for an apology, I would have to ask for an apology from both of you. And I thought it was best to move on since you had both behaved badly. Because I feel like saying, do you want to take it outside, is actually worse than what Mr. McClellan said. So, we can argue this on and on, but you weren't there, Mr. Greason. Yes, but I was there, and staff was there, and I'm sure they would back me up on my description of things. However, I do agree with Mr. Harton that this is about this council and this event, and we have never had a council member say profane things about a resident during a meeting. I realize that they weren't intended to be overheard, but part of what's required to be on council is a sense of decorum, self-control, and a backbone to stand up even when people are kind of punching at you. That's part of the deal here, and I want us to uphold that.
All right, I have a different take on whether or not the Code of Ethics applies based upon the number of people present, the venue, situation. The Code of Ethics applies, I believe, in all our dealings as members of council. My main concern is that we have not in the past, and I realize it is the past, and I was on that council that was negligent, I believe, in dealing with Mr. McClellan's repeated outbursts. Now, I'm not trying to play whataboutism because I'm just as much disappointed in Mr. Stone, in his behavior. I believe, though, we need to be better at applying the code of ethics. There have been 3 instances that I am aware of where Mr. McCullen acted what I believe outside the code of ethics. And as council, we chose to do nothing other than ask for an apology. And an apology is fine. But when you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, the apologies don't count because you're not really changing your behavior. Okay? So what I'm concerned about is the message we're sending right here, more than anything, is it's more about the individual that said it than what was said. I am not excusing Mr. Stone. I believe Mr. Stone should be admonished. I believe also Mr. McCullen should be admonished. So the biggest thing I want to make sure is that we try to restore that we will enforce our ethics evenly and fairly. And historically, we have not. And I am just as much responsible for that, not applying the ethics thing. I actually asked the Northwest Observer not to report that Mr. McCullen had done that. In hindsight, I probably should have said, go ahead and print that. But I was trying to protect the council by minimizing that. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done it because, like I said, Mr. McCullen just continued to do what he had done in the past, where he had an outburst at the council briefing. And just because it was a council briefing doesn't change the fact that the code of ethics should apply. He was talking to another resident, regardless of the status of that other resident. So I don't see how that differs. What I would much prefer we do here is we present what I would call a statement of disapproval for both Mr. Stone and Mr. McCullen, so that the council goes on record saying that what we did in the past is wrong, and we should correct it here. So I'm basically making an amended motion that the council expresses its profound disappointment regarding the recent actions of Mr. Stone, who made a disparaging remark about another resident, and Mr. McCullen, who has exhibited repeated instances of similar behavior. Such conduct is wholly unacceptable within our community. It not only undermines the value of mutual respect and dignity that we strive to uphold, but also damages the trust and cohesion on which our community relies. As representatives of this community, it is incumbent upon us to set the highest standards of behavior and to hold ourselves accountable when those standards are not met. Mr. Stone's remark and Mr. McCullen's repeated instances of similar behavior run counter to these standards and must be unequivocally condemned. We urge both Mr. Stone and Mr. McCullen to reflect on their actions and to take appropriate steps to make amends with the affected parties. Additionally, council will work to ensure that such behavior is addressed evenly, swiftly, and effectively in the future. In conclusion, the council hereby expresses its firm disapproval of the actions of Mr. Stone and Mr. McCullen and reaffirms its commitment to fostering a community built on mutual respect and understanding and inclusivity. Is there a second? Second. I'll just add a couple quick comments. As far as a direct apology, yes, I wish Mr. Stone had made a direct apology to Mr. McCullen tonight. And I would ask that if he would consider doing that again when I stop speaking. But regardless of that, back to the December 5th occurrence, as Ms. Schneider pointed out, Mr. McCullen did not apologize for that outburst. Mr. Stone did apologize for his outburst. And so I believe what we probably should do right now is I would say that now that both of them are in a position where they should be apologizing to each other, that I would leave the resolution that matter to Mr. Stone and Mr. McCullen. That's something for them to deal with. If Mr. Stone wishes to modify his apology and include a direct apology to Mr. McCullen, I'd appreciate that, but we have an amended motion on the table to discuss. Do you want to change anything? Mr. Greasy, you have any comments about the motion? Ms. Schneider?
You're turning this into a comedy. This isn't even serious at this point because Mr. McClellan isn't on council anymore. I would also say that Mr. Stone, as I pointed out, basically threatened to fight Mr. McClellan, and that also deserves an apology. And maybe we should reach back even further in the annals of time to find every time every past council member has misbehaved and call it out. Again, I do feel that an apology changes everything. When Mr. McClellan apologized quickly and sincerely for incident number 1, I'm going to call it, that was done. The book was closed. When both of them misbehaved at the December 5th meeting, sure, call it out, but that is done, and I do believe that Mr. Stone's behavior was worse. And I do believe that the censure motion by Mr. Harton is appropriate, and this is getting ridiculous.
Mr. Harden.
As previously said, this is not about the past. This is about this council. This council has the opportunity tonight with the censure proposal that I made to start raising the standard for this council and hopefully making sure that we have high standards for this council. I see the second amended proposal to be of lower standard. It is forgiving the thing that should not be unforgiven, which is the disparaging of citizens by this council. I don't agree with it. I think it's basically gaslighting the community, and it's irresponsible of the council and the mayor to make such a proposal and to be seconded by other council members. So I stand with my resolution of censure. I think that's the proper way forward for the next, for this council and and councils in the future. So I disagree entirely with the Second Amendment and stand with my resolution of censure from Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Okay, there's an amended motion on the table.
Mayor?
Yes, yes.
As I understood what you announced, that that's effectively a substitute resolution,
Yes, I think we're calling them amended motions.
but it's not amended, it's a substitute. So you've got two resolutions effectively on the floor, so you can vote on both of them. The first one would be your
Yes.
substitute resolution, would be voted on first.
May I ask a question? So this substitute resolution took some of us by surprise. Is it not appropriate? Is it appropriate for us to vote on a resolution that we have not received in writing?
Yes, it can be oral.
Thank you.
Okay, the substitute motion gets considered first. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that one fails. So we're back to the original motion. All those in favor of the original motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Nay. Both motions fails. Matter is closed. We move on to the next item.
What, did you vote nay on this last
Yes.
motion? Okay, I didn't hear you.
So it's 2-2.
So,
Mr. Stone did not vote because it applied to him.
right,
I
I
believe
see.
based upon our
Yes,
Our
that's right.
parliamentary motions have been done, and this matter is closed. All right, town manager, public comments. Please raise your hand, be recognized. You can step up, say your name and address, and the floor is yours. Yes, sir.
First of all, let me commend you, Mayor, for bringing this
Name
to
and
close.
address.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Chuck Salmon, 8505 Merriman Farm Road, Oak Ridge, North Carolina. Let me commend you for trying to bring this to closure, not taking sides on anything. Several of you, just like you said earlier, I've been disappointed by several votes on council, several things that I've heard said. I think in this case, this was not a public comment. It was an utterance, as Mr. Harton's motion indicated. It was a thought that he let out that nobody heard except for a few listeners on the broadcast. So it wasn't intended to be directed at somebody else, but it was merely an expressed thought, which was bad judgment. So I commend you for moving on, and for the council trying to bring higher standard. I'm all for that, but I'm also all for not setting precedents when the two parties involved were obviously equally at fault in prior incidents. So thank you for that.
Anyone else wish to speak? Raise your hand. Yes, Debbie.
Well, first of all, I thought
Name
when,
and address?
Debbie Schoenfeld, 8501 San Farm Court. First of all, I thought when, a board member, a council member didn't vote, that the vote was automatically a yes vote. So I might be mistaken, but I'd like to know how anyone is ever gonna walk up to this podium and speak and know that the two mics are slandering, and not know that the two mics aren't slandering them. Sitting up there on the dais bantering back and forth about residents of our community like school kids. Totally out of sync with the expectations and responsibilities of the position they hold as council members, and more shockingly, as mayor pro tem. They showed open disrespect to a proven leader and member of this community. The fact that they're still sitting on the council as members is beyond me. They aren't trustworthy and appear to lack character and the qualities of a leader. I don't know how these two are ever going to redeem themselves, but I'm sure we're all going to be watching.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we'll close that section of public comments. Now the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item for your consideration this evening, a simple request to update the contact information in the town's continuity of government plan. This is part of a plan that was adopted in 2016, developed by the Guilford County Emergency Management Department. Basically, it establishes protocols and procedures to implement in the event of a town emergency. And again, like I said, the only update in front of you this evening is updating the local contact information that will be available to emergency management in case of emergency.
All right, any questions before we ask for a motion? Is there a motion to approve the revised continuity of government plan? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Anything
That's all this evening. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to new business. We have Conservation Easement Committee presentation of mission and projects. There we go.
Introduce yourselves. Good evening, I'm Stephanie Farrell, 5839 Miller Road, and
Ron Simpson, 8016 Vogelman Road.
thank you for the time on tonight's agenda. You know, every month I get up here and I give an update on the Conservation Easement Committee, and everybody says, great, that's super, good work, but nobody really knows what the Conservation Easement Committee does. And so I think with 3 new members on the council, this was the perfect time to stand up and kind of do a deep dive into what the Conservation Easement Committee is about, how it started, what the background is, who the committee is, what exactly is an easement. We throw that term around a lot. So if you could go to the next slide.
There.
So tonight we want to cover what exactly is a conservation easement and what's the difference between a conservation and a preservation easement. What are the uses of these easements? What do they cost? What is the core grant initiative? Because the core grant initiative is the backbone of the conservation easement project here in Oak Ridge. What does it cover? What's the criteria behind it? What's the process to apply for and hopefully obtain a core grant? And then we have breaking news about the first applications for the core grants in Oak Ridge, and then the next steps and how we're going to continue to work with the committee moving forward. So for the next, so Ron's going to kick it off here, and he's going to give the background on the Conservation Easement Committee.
Thank you, Stephanie. Before there was a Conservation Easement Committee, there was a Conservation Easement Committee. That committee was actually formed by this body in 2019 to explore the idea of using conservation and preservation easements as a way to preserve land and buildings, given the history of development in our community. Now, most of you know that I've been on planning and zoning for 15 years. In that time, I think, and the fact is, a couple of you were with me in that journey, and we probably rezoned 1,000 acres in that last 15 years. So obviously, many of us were in meetings with a audience of concerned adjacent property owners wondering why this horse farm or this beautiful piece of woodland was going to be turned into housing developments. So I guess for some of us, this finally matured into an idea of maybe trying to use easements as a way to preserve land and facilities. So council, in its wisdom, decided to form a committee back in 2019 to explore the idea of using easements. And there were representatives from planning and zoning and historic preservation, and also from residents of the historic area. And we hoped to complete our work in 6 months, but 2019, if you remember, was a very unusual year, and it started an unusual period. And so 6 months of work actually wound up taking about 19 months before we turned our report into council in November of 2020. We learned a lot about how easements are done and the agencies that exist in North Carolina and in our community to help organizations and individuals secure these easements. You may have made aware of the Nature Conservancy. In our area, there's the Piedmont Land Conservancy that's an affiliate that is focused mainly on agricultural land or wildland. The Piedmont Preservation North Carolina is an agency that actually is more concerned with preserving historic structures in North Carolina. So these would wind up being partnering agencies, but let me first go back to the idea of the decision by council in November, I believe, of 2020, on the basis of the recommendation of our first easements committee, to form a permanent conservation easements committee, and that's the one now that we're talking about, the one that followed the council decision to make this a permanent organization. So we now have members on our committee that also consists of planning and zoning and historic preservation and some Mountains to the Sea membership. So people on our committee who are involved with land and facilities preservation. And the goals of the committee are actually focused on trying to facilitate. I want to use that term advisedly, facilitate. We're not arm twisting, we're not browbeating, there's no taking of land, but rather if a property owner is interested in participating in an easement situation because they wish to preserve the land, perhaps they have some family historic significance, or a structure, a building, we can perhaps be of help in that process and even defray some of the cost associated with the idea that it's actually benefiting our town with these preservation actions. So, Sean, can you bring up? So what is an easement? I'm certainly not a lawyer, but generally speaking, it's an agreement between a property owner and the easement holding organization. And by the way, in no case have we actually discussed the idea that the town would be the easement holding organization. Our operative assumption at the moment is that we would work with some partnering agency, like the Piedmont Land Conservancy, and they would then be the administrator of the easement. Our interest is because we think the town benefits from these, that we would like to take part in and perhaps publicize the idea that these are available to property owners. This easement option is available. So it's voluntary, as I think I've already alluded. It's entirely voluntary on the part of the property owner. And so for that reason, we feel that there's no big hand of government involved here in trying to browbeat any property owner. The process to get an easement in place takes a fairly long time, but one advantage of it is that once the easement is in place, it has a permanence to it. Whereas if a facility is just designated as a historic landmark, there would be nothing really to prevent the owner from demolishing that. But an easement would give more protection when in preserving those items. And even if there's a change in ownership of the property, the easement lives on. And ultimately, whatever expense we may incur in trying to facilitate the creation of the easement, in past years, council has agreed that in concept, that may be money well spent. Sean? Okay, I think Stephanie, you're up.
Thanks, Ron. So there are two types of conservation easements that we are focused on here in Oak Ridge. The first one is the open space easement, and that can allow trail or recreational use. It protects landscape features. It limits or takes away the possibility of future development. The partnering organization, as Ron mentioned, that we work with on open space easements is the Piedmont Lake Conservancy. The other type of easement that we work on, or that we use, is the historic structure easement. And that's a very flexible easement that's negotiated, or it's flexible in terms of it's being negotiable with the partner organization. It protects the historic exteriors, or maybe even the historic interiors, depending on the agreement, the easement that's negotiated. It prohibits the demolition of the structure. And as Ron said, the partnering organization for that type of easement is Preservation North Carolina. As Ron also mentioned, the monitoring organizations hold the easements as recorded with the deed, and they oversee the property to ensure that there's conformance with the terms of the easements. And so that's called, they're monitoring the property so that no one can come along and say, build something on a piece of open space, or if there's a historic structure that's under an easement, that no one can come in and tear part of it down or paint it some strange color or add on to it or do something like that. So in the next slide, we'll talk about the cost of a conservation easement. So the cost of an easement is made up of a couple of different factors. So you have the monitoring fee, which I just mentioned. That's the fee that the partnering organization, if it's PNC or PLC, what they charge to basically put the easement in place and to ensure compliance with the easement for perpetuity. And then there are fees for the key documentation needed to put the easement in place, and that's like land surveys, environmental reports. It can also include reporting costs and title insurance. There are also a legal review and appraisal, but those are not eligible for the core grant, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But those are also part of the costs that go into putting an easement in place. So in the next slide, we'll talk about what does a core grant cover. So the core grant that Oak Ridge would provide could cover up to the full cost of the monitoring fee. It would also cover the full cost of key documentation, so the surveys, the environmental reports, the recording cost, and the title insurance. And the range of costs for an open space easement versus a historic structure easement are different. An open space easement could cost more than a historic structure easement just because of the cost to put it in place. It might be more work needed for the survey or other factors. So you're looking at a typical grant cost of $10,000 to $15,000 for open space, and then $6,000 to $10,000 for the historic structure easement. And of course, there's nothing to say that it could be less. And then also the open space easement may vary depending on the size of the property. So we've talked about what an easement is. We've talked about the cost behind an easement. We've talked about what the core grant would cover for an easement. So let's talk about the criteria for core grants. So for an open space easement, we are looking at different criteria. Most prominently, that the property is located in Oak Ridge. It needs to be comprised of woodlands, farmlands, parklands, or a combination, basically open space. Other considerations are that it might have significant natural features like a creek, a stream, notable trees, the level of need to protect the property from development. You know, in Oak Ridge, that's significant. The visibility of property to the public, people can see it. If it's located in a prominent place within Oak Ridge, that's a factor that we consider. Public access to the property and connectivity to other easement-connected properties. Trails are a big initiative here in Oak Ridge, as we all know. And so the possibility for a core grant to cover a piece of property that might allow us to build trails and connect it to other trails, that's a factor also that we consider when we're looking at an open space easement. And finally, the size of the property. You know, while it's important to preserve any kind of open space, we may not consider a space that's only an acre or two. You know, we're looking at bigger parcels when they are available. So that covers the criteria for the open space. For the historic structures, again, it has to be located in Oak Ridge. It must be at least 75 years old. Needs to have documented architectural, historic, or cultural significance to Oak Ridge, and then contribute to the historic fabric and unique character of Oak Ridge. A lot of our historic structures date way back, and they have significance because of prominent families in Oak Ridge that have held on to them for years. So that's another factor that we consider when we're looking at historic structures. And then finally, the significance. Does it lack any protection from the historic district? So is it outside the historic district? Is it, again, visible to the public? And finally, the overall size of the building and the surrounding property is also a factor to consider. So what is the core grant process in Oak Ridge? So when someone wants to get more information about a core grant, they're interested in exploring this as a possibility for their property, first they would contact the town hall, and they would contact Sean, who is our point of contact at the town hall. They would complete the application form that is available online and that we could walk them through. And then once the application is complete and they've had an interest meeting with Sean and members of the committee to determine if this is worth pursuing, they would submit the completed application and information to the Conservation Easement Committee. Then we sit down and we review the application. We compare it to that criteria that I just went over and see if it meets the criteria. And if it does, then we submit it to the partnering organizations for their feedback. So if this is something that they also want to pursue, because their feedback is crucial. If they agree that this is something, an easement should be put on this property or historic structure, then it's sent back to the Conservation Easement Committee. We'll then draft a memo with our recommendation to send it to you on the town council, and then we'll ask that you consider the amount or that we move forward with the core grant, and then you'll bring it to a vote. So now that we have been at work at this for a couple of years, we're very excited that we've received not one, but two core grant applications within the last few months. One is for open space and it's historic farmland, and the other is for a historic structure, and it is culturally significant to Oak Ridge. So the open space is 17 acres of former farmland in western Oak Ridge. It has trail easement and trailhead opportunities, and it's located in a prime development corridor. It's very visible from Highway 150 on that side of town. The historic step home easement is also on the western side of Oak Ridge. It was built in 1815. It consists of historic homes and outbuildings. It's located outside of the historic district, so there's no protection for it right now. It has a designation with other historic committees or organizations, but they don't really offer any teeth in terms of protecting this from future development or demolition. So this would give them the protection that the homeowners want. And so we will be submitting those to you at May's meeting. So it's kind of a cliffhanger there. So our next steps for the committee moving forward, we're going to make great recommendations to town council as appropriate. We're going to continue to publicize the Port Grand Initiative through events, an open house, through media, our friends at Northwest Observer, and through social media, through publicizing it on the town website. And then perhaps one of our biggest factors is using word of mouth. I don't know, I mean, every day it seems like I talk to somebody who says, can you believe the development in Oak Ridge and Summerfield? And all we have to say is Oak Ridge is actually a very forward-thinking town, and we've put in place a program to help people put protections on their property. So if we have people really touting this program and talking about it to their neighbors and their family, that's probably one of the best ways that we can promote this program. Finally, news of grant successes through press releases and online posts. This is only the best PR for Oak Ridge. You know, other towns are developing like crazy, and Oak Ridge is putting in a plan to save our historic farmland and our historic structures. Finally, we have been building relationships with property owners in Oak Ridge. This is not a short process. This is a big decision because easements are expensive, and you also lose property value when you put an easement on your property. So this is not something that someone enters into lightly. So we have found that we're building relationships with property owners as they make those decisions and they walk through the ramifications for their heirs and their future estates. So the easements and the potential easements in this town would not be possible without the relationships that the conservation easement committee members have made with residents in town. Finally, we're going to continue to work with our partnering organizations, Piedmont Land Conservancy and Preservation North Carolina, and we'll continue to seek grant opportunities for the future with other organizations in the state, and to see what else we can do in terms of raising money to protect land in Oak Ridge. So that brings us to the questions, but before we take questions, I just want to say a very special thanks to several people. So Ann Schneider has been pivotal and very important in this whole process. The committee members, Ron, Miles Boyd, who I don't think is here tonight, Alexandra Gill, Debbie Schoenfeld, Martha Pittman, who was a former council liaison, was very instrumental in the development of our materials and outreach. Sean Taylor, Bill, and Sandra. So thank you all for all your hard work, and we'd love to hear your questions.
Questions? Any comments? Excellent presentation. I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm a big fan of the conservation easements. Love them. But a couple of things that, and presentation is great, it's very informative. A couple things that as we start doing outreach that we probably need to help, because I hear people go, well, what about those conservation easements? And one of the big things I get asked is, why are they so expensive? And you know, I can talk around it, but you guys can talk to it. Mm-hmm. So I think as part of our explanations is we need people to understand, you know, it's not a $5 fee, you know, and here's the reason why. Mm-hmm. There's some things that I think, and the town council can help with some of that. You know. But I do have a question. So the conservation easement can't be developed if it's the 17 acres of farmland, but it can have improvements such as trails.
Yes.
Now, how is that determined what can and can't be done with the conservation easement?
It is all part of the easement as it's written, so the agreement that's negotiated with the partnering organization, that is all written into the agreement, the easement agreement. And so you could say, you know, we want trails built, we would allow trails on our property, a trail easement or a trailhead, but we don't want it until after we've passed, or we'll do it now. So that's just part of the negotiation for the easement.
Is there a limitation on how much it could be? I mean, think of it this way, and I'm all hypotheticals, folks, and I'm not trying to, it's not a gotcha thing. Yeah. But if the family has 25 acres, and they say, yes, you can put trails in there, but we want to put a parking lot in there for a trailhead. would that have to be agreed to beforehand?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
They're flexible in terms of what you can negotiate with, but they are binding, and so you need to be as detailed as possible.
But remember, the owner exercises the ultimate control. They can decide to sign or not sign.
Can I speak to the cost of the easements? Because early on, remember, we heard those presentations from the two organizations. And the reason is that every year, sometimes multiple times a year, they have to send staff out to check the entire property. And you can imagine there are easements on 100-acre properties that cost more than the 17-acre property, but they have to check the entire property. And in the case of historic structures, they have to check those too. One of the benefits our partner organizations see in working with us is that probably this town is going to keep an eye on those things too. But the cost of that staff member going out, and then the potential legal cost if there is an infringement on one of the many, it's a small proportion of properties that they have trouble with, but those can become enormously expensive.
Right, and thank you for that, because that's exactly the kind of thing that I think that we make sure that people understand is that, I hadn't really thought about it, but what happens when somebody buys a piece of property and they say, I just don't care if you've got an easement there, I'm gonna do whatever. There's legal fees that go along with that, so you're paying forward, or you're paying up front for what might come.
That's exactly right.
So those are the types of things I think that helps the public understand more about the program itself.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? Excellent job. Thank you so much. You said it. Okay, consideration approval memorandum of understanding with the Piedmont Land Conservancy. You want to inform us of anything there that we need to know there? Mr. Bruce?
Sure. Timing is appropriate to pair this with the presentation. This is simply a document that outlines the responsibilities of the town and the responsibilities of the Land Conservancy should the town participate in funding or assisting the funding of the conservation easement. Town attorney has reviewed it, and the Conservation Easement Committee has also reviewed and endorsed it.
Any questions, comments about it? I think a very telling paragraph is paragraph 9, which basically means that if there's not sufficient funds, the town doesn't have to make up anything. So we're not obligated to, we're not forced into any agreement. It's definitely an open-ended agreement. If we decide if it makes sense for the town to contribute, to grant or grant or not. So, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding agreement with the Piedmont Land Conservancy?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? It's a big step forward. Thanks. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item C, consideration approval of the 2024-02 solid waste franchise ordinance. This is the second reading. Do we have to do anything other than announcing it's a second reading?
No, I gave a very brief summary of the request at the last meeting. Happy to go over that again if you'd like me to, but this is simply a statutory requirement to hold 2 hearings to renew this franchise.
And the rate's basically going up based on the inflation rate, right?
That's correct. There'll be a 3% increase.
So there will be an increase in your garbage fees of 3%. So I personally have had no complaints about the service, so I've been happy with that. And I believe you get very few complaints.
No, very few complaints, and when we do, they're always handled quickly and efficiently.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the solid waste franchise ordinance?
Make a motion we approve the solid waste franchise ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Consideration approval adoption of interlocal agreement on tax collection.
Since the town incorporated back in 1998, we have contracted with Guilford County Tax Department for the collection of our municipal taxes. Of course, the Guilford County Tax Department collects their own taxes out of their own budget, but the collection of municipal taxes is something that they partner with the town to fund. For this service, the county charges the town a fee of currently a fee of 0.62% of all collections, excluding motor vehicle revenue. Based on revenues collected last year, that equates to roughly $7,000 a year that the town contributes to the tax department. This year, the Board of County Commissioners adopted an increased rate of 0.75%. At the end of the day, that's about $1,500 more that the town will be paying for this service. And I'll also note that the amended agreement that's been presented to us by the tax department or by the Board of Commissioners also extends the agreement's term until June 30th, 2029. Goes without saying that this would be a much more economical solution than hiring our own tax collector.
Yes.
And of course, it's practically speaking, a highly subsidized rate for our participation in that program.
Now, does the 2029 mean the rate is going to stay the same until 2029, or they can change it?
They can still change it.
Okay.
I mean, but it would have to come back before this council to approve an amended interlocal agreement.
Okay.
But if there's no proposed change in the rate, they wouldn't have to renew it until 2020.
And I believe they haven't changed the rates since like 2012 to begin with. So they're not, at least in the past, they haven't been in the habit of changing it regularly. So, any questions?
Sam, you're in the numbers business here. If we offered you $1,300, would you do it for us?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's all I want to do.
All right, is there a motion to approve the interlocal tax agreement?
Make a motion, we approve the interlocal tax agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Guys have it. All right, we have one item down here. Discussion with the county commissioners about asking them for $160,000 to help us with the engineering for the town core water loop. When I attended the county commissioners retreat, they indicated that they'd be open to this kind of things. Ms. Schneider had a subsequent conversation with Pat Tillman where he said he's open for us asking for it. So what I'd like to do is, one, discuss it and see if you guys are in favor of asking the county for $160,000, and then ask for a motion to approve that if we so want to approve it. So any comments, discussion about this?
I would like to see us move forward with this. One of the things that we made as a board committee to the previous council was to get engineering done so that if money became available to build, in this case, the loop, the engineering work would be done. That's what we did with the current water main that we decided to bring up from Forsyth County. So I clearly would be supportive of asking the county to help us get this engineering group, engineering work done for a loop through the commercial area.
Any comments?
Yeah, I would agree this would make us shovel ready, which is attractive to future funders. And in my conversation with Commissioner Tillman, he indicated that this was around the amount that they would be willing to offer us. Last year, as you may recall, they funded the town with a grant of $140,000 for our inclusive playground and security cameras at our parks. So this is a little more, but I think they'd probably approve it, and I think it'd be great for our town. And I know that they support this is a way for them to support increased infrastructure in Guilford County.
Mr. Stone, any comments, questions?
No, I agree.
Mr. Thompson?
Agree.
Yeah, at the retreat, one of the big topics they continually talked about was water and sewer. Now, we don't need to deal with sewer, but the whole topic of water was something that all the county commissioners and all the towns were talking about. So the county has pretty much signed on to say that they are interested in supporting these type of projects. So I think we have a good chance that they would look favorably on this request. So if there's no further discussions or motion to approve, asking the county commissioners for $160,000 for engineering for the town core water loop.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So we'll draft a short letter and send it off to the commissioners. Monthly financial update.
Michael Thomas asked if I'd ever planned on coming in here with the band or whatever, like I've threatened to do for April Fool's Day. So I think Michael wants me to do something like that if we have an April Fool's annual meeting, council meeting. So just fair warning. No, Mr. Stone, I would not touch collecting the taxes with a 10-foot pole cable. Those folks down there are wonderful to work with, and they are worth every penny of what we get. But anyway, on the financials, overall, as I'm used to saying, it's a normal month for this time of year. Financial report, we're maintaining strong cash balance position that is going to change somewhat. The mayor just signed off. We're going to be moving some money from Piedmont Federal. We've used up the Truist loan on the park, and we're wrapping up on that. So we're getting into the piece of the funding on that is the funds out of fund balance. So you will see the Piedmont Federal number going down next month. But right now, at the end of the month, we were holding $3.57 million in assets. Liabilities is $69,000. The bulk of our monies is in fund balance, which is committed to capital projects or restricted by state statute or for specialized funds. For the month, we brought in, can look at my contacts here, $154,791. We spent $148, so we added $5,970 to fund balance for the month. Followed is Schedule 1 with a breakdown in our depositories between Truist, Bank of Oak Ridge, Piedmont Federal, and then you've got the detail of all the checks and all the deposits, followed by the assets and the Schedule 4 for the loan on the land. And then behind that is the Water Enterprise Fund with its performance for the month. So overall, fairly normal. As I said, for this time of year, we had, I can get to my little piece of paper here. Property taxes of $4,828.99 and motor vehicle taxes $9,221.89 for a total tax receipt of $1,450.88. It's always lower this time of the year. The bulk of the property tax has been collected. Motor vehicle, which was excluded from the collection on that. Reason being, motor vehicle is all collected at the state level and is transferred down. And as long as that Excel spreadsheet from Raleigh does not suddenly start swapping columns, everything's okay. We have had a few instances of that with some data integrity coming down from the state, but there again, the county's done a phenomenal job of jumping on it and resolving those issues with what has come down to them. But for this time, and this is the tail end of the fiscal year, April, May, June, of course, is the end of the year. They will be doing some collection on property tax based on the late filing fees, late payment fees, those kinds of things. For the month, we had the normal sales and property taxes we talked about. We received interest, franchise tax receipts, which was telecom, services, video programming, electric power, pipe natural gas. We had some planning and zoning fees, tap fees for the Water Enterprise Fund, donations to the dog park, facility rental, special events with the park, and some donations to Veterans Honor Green Phase 2. As always, we're watching our investments and we're monitoring them, looking for the best yield and support of the staff. We're still doing things with ARPA, the SCIF grants, the CIP process, Finance Committee budget meetings, and work on the potential water system. So all of those things we've got going on. And then item E, the Truist loan funding has been used. So the logistics now, we will pull money from other sources. We put it into Capital Projects Fund checking account. All the bills are paid out of that. That way it's isolated. We can track it under our Capital Projects Fund. And this year we will definitely have to have the single audit performed because of the monies coming in from the ARPA that was used on that, and also some of the state SCIF grants and such as that. I've already talked to the auditors. There's high hopes that with the way things have bundled, we may be able to get away with just one single audit on the park, which will suffice for both federal and also for the state level on the grant work. They have differing enforcement levels where you have to do the audit. I think we're going to catch both of them. So we're preparing for that. That's why we run everything through one account. That's why one of my pet things, we have the checks a weird color. It doesn't look like anything we've ever used or anything we are using currently. That way, when this gentleman goes in the room, we hand him everything. It's visually separated. But overall, we're in good shape. The county budget process, I had to attend a meeting today on that by Teams, and they're moving forward with the county budget. So hopefully we will get the additional funds, and we're well prepared to take care of those. So that's everything from my report. I do appreciate it.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to accept the finance officer's report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thanks again, Sam, as always. All right, committee reports. Historic Preservation Commission.
I'm Debbie Schoenfeld. I live at 8501 Sansero Farm Court in Oak Ridge. Good evening. The HPC met at its regularly scheduled meeting on March 20th. Our COA applicant didn't show up for the meeting, so we discussed other things, committee reports. We talked about our budget and the cuts to our fiscal year 24-25 budget and how we could work around that. We talked about working with the Oak Ridge Elementary School's 100-year anniversary celebrations committee to find ways that we could help them with that project. And one idea to bring awareness to the occasion was to plan a walking tour during the celebrations. Our Historic District Walking Tours Committee will be planning a spring tour. The date will be advertised on Facebook. Edits from the proofreader for our Historic Oak Ridge book have been reviewed and accepted, and now we're working on the opening pages and photo selections. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Planning and zoning?
We didn't meet last month.
What's that? No meeting?
No meeting.
Okay. Mountains and Sea Trail?
Good evening, Ann Steele, 8927 Grove Park Drive, and I'm the chair of the MST committee. Our committee met in person here at Town Hall on Tuesday, March 26th. We had lengthy conversations discussing the condition of the Headwaters Trail. Due to heavy rains and ongoing construction of properties in the Riverside neighborhood, portions of the trail have been covered in runoff debris and mud. There are places on the trail that have changed due to improper erosion control in the developing neighborhood. We continue to monitor the situation and address issues as they arise. Inspectors from Guilford County Erosion Control have also been monitoring the situation and have been in touch with the developer of the neighborhood. We have been working with a counselor at Northwest Middle School who is involved with the Student Ambassadors program there. On March 13th, I gave a presentation to a group of students who are interested in learning more about the local MST trails. Several of the student ambassadors will be helping our committee with the Kenai Keepers booth later this month. We will be holding trail work days later this month to clean up and rework the Headwaters Trail. Those dates are Saturday, April 20th and Thursday, April 25th. Everyone is welcome to join us. We will meet at 9 a.m. at the Linville parking lot. And as mentioned earlier, we are also participating in the Kenai Keepers event at Town Park on the 27th.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thanks so much. Conservation easement, did your presentation cover it? Or do you have something else you'd like to add?
I think that's it. We're meeting again on April 17th here at Town Hall, if you'd like to join us.
Okay, thanks. Special events? Do you need your extra minute?
I do not.
Okay.
Patty Domchowski, 7320 Hidden View Drive. We've collected, for Veterans Honor Green, we've collected $11,100 for Phase 2, and that was starting in January 1, 2024. And of that total, 1,950 was actually donated from our recent push in the Northwest Observer to have people donate towards the papers. We're in the process of converting the data for the Polar Engraving Database, and we're working on doing this. Memorial Day, Christian Castilli will be our guest speaker. Thanks to Ann for coordinating this. Christian served in the Army Special Forces. He was a Green Beret and did 12 deployments, of which 5 were in Afghanistan. He has 2 Bronze Stars and a Combat Infantry badge with a star. Christian brings a very strong background in the military, and I'm very excited to have him as our speaker. The event will be on Monday, May 27th, here at Town Hall at 10 a.m. All are welcome. Our July 4th Kids Bike Parade. Genevieve this week, Town Hall, received a call from a Dr. Timmery Schweitzer from Confident Kids Pediatric Dentistry here in Oak Ridge. And she would like to sponsor a bike raffle for the event, so this is very generous of her. The event will be held on Thursday, July 4th at the park at 10 a.m. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there, and last year we had a great turnout. Veterans Day, we will celebrate Veterans Day this year on Monday, November 11th. Hopefully we'll be able to have it at the Veterans Honor Green site. Our speaker will be Sharon Hovis. Sharon served 15 years in the U.S. Army and National Guard. She enlisted when she was 17 years old. She also has a 30-year career in law enforcement and has served as the first female police chief in Rowan County. Again, thanks to Ann for reaching out to Sharon, to have Sharon as our speaker. And the last item was, we had our meeting, our last monthly meeting, and I was elected chair again. Any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Tree Committee? Okay. Parks and Rec Advisory?
Adrian Crowder, 5679 Timber Trace Way, Oak Ridge. I'm the co-chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. We met on the 21st of March, discussed Heritage Farm Park update. The playground's complete, but the sectional park is not open yet. There has been some uses of the park despite being closed, which has raised some concerns for safety and the equipment and supplies that are still on site. There's some asphalt repairs still need to be made there, which have been delayed due to the weather. The fields will need to be addressed again in May, with some areas needing to be regraded. There are some drainage issues as well, where the old clay pipes are collapsing and causing sinkholes. There's a change order with Park Construction to have these fixed. We are tentatively working on a Heritage Farm Grand Park opening on May 4th at 11 a.m. That's tentatively being planned. Over-reported, they've begun using the fields for baseball, softball, and soccer practice. There was some discussion about adding some batting cages besides fields 3 and 4, but we are waiting to hear more information from Over on this proposal. There were 2 presentations for charity events, which we were presented and we approved. Both were from Early College at Guilford students. The exact dates are still pending review, but one is a 5K charity run with some games to benefit Children's Heart Foundation, which tentatively is for April 21st from noon to 3. The other one was a scavenger hunt to benefit and raise awareness for pediatric cancer. There'll be $2 tickets for the scavenger hunt. The original date is looking for April 27th from 11:30 to 4 with the rain date of May 4th. That one, again, to be determined with meeting with Brock, but most likely around the Redmond Field. Farmhouse Community Center update. We are waiting on a soil update for building the foundation, which will require a change order to brace the foundation with additional footings. We reviewed 3 proposals for park security cameras and decided to pursue further with a proposal from RJ Young. We're working with that vendor now on some changes, as well as including some other options to be reviewed at our next meeting. This project will require 3 vendors to complete the total project, plus some time for park staff. That breaks down to the security camera vendor to provide the extra cameras, the Duke Energy to provide power for each one of the locations where the camera will be, and networking to expand upon our current Wi-Fi to support the cameras, as well as any future networking endeavors that we want there. The park staff requirement that we've discussed with Brock is fairly minimal, but it would be to erect some poles for the camera locations. And just a reminder of some upcoming events. April 6th, we have the Spring Arts and Crafts Show. April 13th is Music in the Park with Barefoot Modern. And as we just heard, April 27th is the K9 Capers.
Okay, and we have, thank you. Any questions? And we also want to give Carolyn Ruck a little bit of time to talk about the May 4th park opening ceremony.
Carolyn Rock, 1976 Beeson Road. Good evening. Just wanted to inform you guys about what we're planning for May 4th. We're really excited. The upcoming Heritage Farm Park grand opening, which is hosted by Parks and Rec Advisory Board, will be held on May 4th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will kick the celebration off with a 15-minute ceremony, which will include opening remarks from our mayor, some special recognitions, and a presentation of colors by our scouts, and also a ribbon cutting. Then in addition, we'll move on to have a couple of local food vendors available there. A local music artist, Tyler Millard, will be there to perform some music for a range of about an hour and a half in there. And we'll also have pony rides. We really wanted to find something different to recognize and celebrate this property because we feel like this event not only celebrates the grand opening of the beautiful park, but it also commemorates the heritage of the land that it's on. It's farmland, it was farmland, and it continues to be farmed land, and we're proud of that. And you know, we know and we believe this is a rare type of park to have. And we really just feel like this is going to be a great event for the public, and we hope to see you all there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate working on it. Finance Committee?
Mayor, excuse me, can I bring up one other
Yes.
event that is technically under Parks and Rec, although we have our own committee, and that is the K9 Capers event. That will be April 27th, and it's going to be a great event. This is our 10th annual, and I invite anyone to come, whether you have a dog or not. It is a lot of fun, and I also have raffle tickets for sale here, only $1 each, or 6 for $5. If anyone would like to buy some raffle tickets, I'll be glad to sell them to you.
Thank you. Finance Committee?
Hello, Stuart Meese, 1872, 1810 Wildford Drive. I am in my third year of being on the Finance Committee. First year as chair. Our long-term chair, John Jenkins, behind me, has decided to retire. We would like to recognize his service by applause here today. I know he doesn't like that. We set the standard for this particular committee, and I hope we'll be able to keep it going. Just as a review, the purpose of the committee is to take citizens' some of their talents that they have in the business world, give it an extra view of the budget, provide commentary, and have a good discussion and really scrub it and look at what's being proposed. Bill and the staff do an excellent job in terms of preparing the materials each week or each time that we meet. And so we'll go through operating budget, we go through expenses, revenues, capital budget, ask questions. It's a good conversation, and we definitely keep it to the time limit as John has done for so many years. The other thing I want to mention is that this is just a recommendation to council for them to respond to as a starting point, and we're just an advisory committee within this. So in our most recent meeting, we met 3 times this year, that we suggest and approved keeping the tax rate as is. And we have a preliminary budget that will be given to council. And just a couple of things I wanted to highlight there. In terms of revenue, property tax increase, there is a slight increase in the receipts of that. It goes directly to the increased households that are here. Also increased sales tax. I think we've heard a number of references to our crown jewel, not only of Oak Ridge, but of Northwest Guilford, and that is our town parks and how important that is to the viability of Oak Ridge. In addition, and we have some discussion on this, but Oak Ridge definitely likes to visit the ABC store. As those revenues continue to go up. I'm looking at all of us here. As those revenues continue to increase each and every year, especially after COVID, and as interest rates continue to appear to be the same moving forward, we'll be interested to see the jobs report tomorrow, what type of effect that have. Our interest earnings are also up. So there are some good signs in terms of revenues. In terms of increased expenses, as was mentioned, the audit, there'll be some increased expense in terms of that audit. Additionally, we have some additional salaries and maintenance that's coming from the addition of the park facility there as well. So those are just a couple of things that I'll take a look at. And why are we making this investment? We're making this investment in our community because of some of the wonderful things that we have seen. I looked up on Realtor.com today. I wanted to ask anybody, do you know what the listing price of houses in Oak Ridge that sold in April 2021, what the median average was, or the median amount was? It was $444,000. You know what it is today? $653,000. 47% increase in 3 years in the median price that has increased. If you go back 5 years, it's nearly 60%. So that goes to show that the investments that have been made in this town are being reaped by those people that are actually here through their property valuations. And so I commend the group for taking the time to make these recommendations to the council so that they can act appropriately on it. And we look forward to continuing serving this particular way to make this town as great as it can be.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks again, appreciate it. Water Advisory Committee? Happy birthday.
Thank you. Spencer Sullivan, 7917 Quiet Place. The Water Advisory Committee met on March 27th, and most of the meeting was devoted to a presentation by John Gray of Wooten Company, our engineers, on the status of both the elevated tank and the water transmission main projects. The plans are complete on the water tank, have been for a few months. We're awaiting state approval, which hopefully will come in the next few weeks, because once we have that approval, we are free to put that part of the project out for bids. Everything's ready to go. The water transmission main design is roughly 50% complete now, and during the review, the committee made several suggestions to John that had to do a lot with local knowledge that they didn't have, historic knowledge, where historic properties are, where things that ought to be avoided are. So I think that will be helpful to them as well to finish up that part. The committee also reviewed a request from the Village Woods Property Owners Association to convey ownership and operation of their community well potable water system to the town. The association has agreed with the terms of the conveyance agreement that the town presented, And the committee is working with Mr. Bruce to perform the due diligence that's required by that agreement. The committee expects to have a recommendation for council consideration at the May meeting. Any questions?
Yes, any questions? Thank you, appreciate it. Do we have any of Oak Ridge Elementary School? Oak Ridge Youth Association? Oak Ridge Military Academy? If not, we'll open up the second public comment session. Please raise your hand, be recognized, state your name and address. Yes, sir. I think he had his hand up first. You, yes. Yep, come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and 3 minutes, and speak whatever you like to speak about.
Heath Clay, live in Hunter Stallion, Summerfield, North Carolina. Hello, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time. I want to reach out and introduce myself as a new member of Summerfield Town Council. I apologize for not contacting you sooner. I intended to, as our towns have much in common, but unfortunately our council has been dealing with many urgent issues since I took office just a few months ago. I hope that in the future our towns can work together to ensure a bright future for the area and our citizens. As you know, for over a year, Summerfield has been in a battle against the annexation of nearly 1,000 acres of non-contiguous land in the heart of our town. I'm here to ask for your support and your assistance. A senator recently came to Stokesdale and confirmed his intent to push for a vote of House Bill 5, including Summerfield de-annexation. It's anticipated that this vote will come in the short legislative session, just as soon as April 24th. I'm asking the Oak Ridge Council consider posting a message on your town webpage and social media. We would be grateful if Oak Ridge leaders and citizens would write to legislators and oppose Summerfield's de-annexation. I firmly believe that this de-annexation is a threat to all small towns, especially those in our area. You can reference our town webpage, summerfieldnc.gov. Summerfield Council passed another resolution in March against the annexation, and we're asking other towns to join in our resolution. We need your support to protect small town autonomy. We hope you will join other small towns in sharing those close to home, our home developments with your citizens. Please don't feel that you're immune. This is happening next door and can happen in other towns. I'm asking that you inform yourselves and your citizens. Allow them to be aware of Summerfield legislative and developer challenges with de-annexation. Let them decide what action or support they feel comfortable in doing. I thank you in advance for your consideration in making and posting a statement referencing our site, summerfieldnc.gov, and you can also go to the tab on there, Saving Summerfield. Please contact me at any time to discuss any matters, especially if I can be of any service to you and your wonderful town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. McCollum, I saw your hand go up.
Hi, I'm George McClellan. I live at 2806 Oak Ridge Road, Oak Ridge, North Carolina. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the Water Committee for the great job that y'all are all doing to push forward to have a dependable supply of water, not only for fire protection, but for the business district. I think the idea of going towards with the County Board of Commissioners is a great idea. And if they're willing, that's going to help us to expand. That's part of the reason why our town works, because we do work together. Also, well, I'm at a loss of words. Anyway, that's really all that I have to say. And I just want to say, great job.
Thank you. I saw some other hands go up. Sorry, his were just about half a second faster than you. Gentleman in the back.
Michael Logan, 5202 Rambling Road, Greensboro. District 3 School Board. Did want to say that Oak Ridge Elementary isn't here, but they are having a STEM Fest 2024, and it is on April 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the school. A couple other options for the school board itself. April 10th is time to register kids for kindergarten. If you have a child that is of age, go online, you can register online. April 16th, there is going to be a board member meeting. I invite everyone down to that meeting. Come to the school board and see how we spend your money. April 17th, there is a work session. That is in the middle of the day. I do not believe that would involve anything that would pertain to board members here, but sometimes come down, get lunch, come watch us do what we do. On the 24th, this is the important. This is the Joint Capital Facilities meeting. This is one with 4 board members from the county and 4 board members from the school board. This is where they're meeting, they're discussing the building of or spending of the bond money. Those are the important meetings that the public needs to attend. So, thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Terry?
I'm going to talk really fast.
Okay.
Terry Hammond, 1815 Oak Ridge Road. I currently represent Oak Ridge on the Guilford County Historic Preservation Commission. I've served on this commission for more than 20 years, off and on. My husband, Roy Nydorf, and I have lived in Oak Ridge since 1981 in the historic Sanders Blaylock House, which is located off of 150 on the scenic corridor. In 1990, this house was designated as a historic landmark by Guilford County, and it was placed on the study list for the National Register of Historic Places by the State Historic Preservation Office. It was recognized with a historic marker by the town of Oak Ridge in 2008. I'd like to thank our town's leaders for supporting historic preservation efforts throughout our town in many ways, but especially for establishing the Historic Heritage Grant and the Core Grant initiatives. My husband and I benefited from a Historic Heritage Grant in 2016 when we restored the original 19th century wooden shutters on our house. We are currently in the process of applying for a Core Grant to offset the costs we will incur in donating a historic preservation easement on our property. Some folks might wonder why we feel the need to have a preservation easement recorded on our deed. A common misperception is that the county's landmark status or National Register eligibility offer all the protection necessary, but unfortunately that is not the case. As I recently observed in Greensboro a few weeks ago, the historic J. Spencer Love Home in Irving Park National Historic Register District was demolished without warning after being purchased only 2 weeks earlier by a prominent developer who, acting within his rights, decided it would be too expensive to renovate and tore it down. Closer to home, the historic 18th century Stafford House on Bunker Hill Road was demolished after the property owner, who had cherished it for years and was working to revitalize the property as a community treasure, died suddenly. When the property was eventually sold, the new owners, again acting within their rights, elected to demolish the historic home. These houses are irreplaceable. Their historic, aesthetic, and cultural value is gone for good. The losses diminish our community's uniqueness and character. We are grateful that Oak Ridge is taking steps through the Core Grant initiative to preserve significant historic structures and open space in Oak Ridge. It is our wish to preserve our historic property and prevent its demolition or significant alteration after our demise. Donating a preservation easement, less than one paragraph.
You got a little grace period there.
Okay. Donating a preservation easement is the most effective way of ensuring that our historic property will enjoy long-term legal protection while remaining in private ownership. We strongly encourage other owners of eligible historic properties and open spaces to consider easements as a way of preserving the historic homes or land they've lovingly cared for and which help to make our town the charming, appealing place that it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I also just want to make one correction in Stephanie's presentation. She said that our house was built in 1815. It was not. The log cabin on our property dates from about that time. The house is a little bit later, more like 1835.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes. Ms. Kinnaman, and I have no idea what she's going to say.
Carol Kinnaman, 8502 Hollow River Court in Oak Ridge. I'm commenting here tonight as a resident of Oak Ridge, not as the mayor's wife. Sam's probably a new leader here who lives close to cardiac arrest because he has no idea what I'm going to say. It is time for everyone, including the elected officials, to remember that every person on the dais has been elected by the voters of Oak Ridge with the expectation of working together to provide for the best interests of the town. Difference of opinion is not a personal attack, but an invitation for dialogue to share ideas and to reach the best solutions. No one person has all the answers. I believe that all council members have good intentions. Therefore, it is time to make a collective effort to work together to provide the guidance to continue making Oak Ridge the town we are all proud of. In the last couple meetings, a comment was made several times about what is the perception of Oak Ridge. Looking at surrounding towns, the perception of Oak Ridge over the years has always been the ability of the council not to always agree, but to work together and come for the good of the town. And I believe that that is still one of the things that makes us strong. Thank you for all the work that and time that everybody puts into it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no other hands go up, we'll move on to council comments. Mix it up a little bit. Mr. Hartman, you have any comments you'd like to make?
Sure, Mayor Kinnaman. Going back to one of our earlier agenda items, it is my belief that with the decision made, or basically 2 no votes are occurring on the resolution of censure, that we went backwards as an organization. I personally really don't care what happened before December 1st when I became a council member. A lot of the discussion was about things that happened in the past. I was focused on what has occurred since this council became elected and sworn in. It was suggested that the efforts of censure were aimed at a person. I can assure you that was not the case. If the comments that had occurred had been any other council member, Ms. Snyder, Mr. Greason, Mr. Kinnaman himself, or me, I would have the same respect. That would be true if it was Thomas Jefferson or Junior Samples too. So I think we went backwards as a council, and I think that is the wrong direction to go. We could have established a firm standard for this council, but going forward, I don't think we accomplished that. Now, in my career, which a 42-year career that went on and ultimately was president, CEO of a company, I had to referee several of these kinds of things. What I can tell you is that it always started with an apology. Until the apology occurred, we could not go forward. And we left this issue today assuming that apologies will be found between Mr. McClellan and Mr. Stone. I personally don't believe that will occur. I hope it will, but I don't think it will be. So that's that issue. Secondly, this was the first time that I, as a councilman, had to make a resolution. I got some help. But first of all, just to indicate, we had no help from the staff. The staff felt uncomfortable dealing with this, as you would expect. So I cobbled through some issues and did the best I could. I had some help. And even earlier this week, when I finally thought I had a final work product, I referred that to Mayor Kinnaman. He made some suggestions that we then took and submitted the document I read to you today. I did that in good faith. I was surprised tonight to find out at the same time the mayor was working on other documents to substitute, which I feel was deceitful. I was working in good faith. I'm not sure, despite what was previously stated, that the good faith was being reciprocated to my efforts. So I leave here tonight certainly wondering about our town council. As I mentioned earlier, we have in my term, we have 1,344 more days. I hope that we will not continue to go backwards with the standards in this council, which I think we did tonight. That's it.
Schneider?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harton. I too was disappointed. This was certainly not a personal issue. It never has been. Thank you to Mr. Clay from Summerfield Town Council for being here. We did, I think I drafted it a year ago, a very strong resolution that is on your website. And I still stand behind personally, and I believe probably this council does. And it states a lot of the things that you stated. So thank you for being here. I would also like to say thanks to Terry Hammond for talking about the lack of protections provided by certain designations. And I'd like to clarify something else. In the historic district, there is no protection from demolition. The Historic Preservation Commission can choose to delay demolition for up to a year, but there is no protection even for homes, structures in our historic district. That includes, all of the Oak Ridge Military Academy, for instance. So I think, although we're prioritizing properties that are outside the district because they don't have even any help preserving their exterior, which to some extent you have in the historic district, owners are asked to follow the design standards. But homes in the historic district are also eligible. I also want to mention something else. Most of you have probably heard that Representative John Hardister has resigned from the North Carolina State House, although he has never represented our district. As the majority leader for the House and as a regional leader with the Guilford County delegation, he played a key role in representing Oak Ridge. For example, he helped extend the timeline on state water funds for our area, supported other funding for Oak Ridge, supported the reinstatement of our school board member, and helped to defeat past bills that threatened our local zoning authority. You might remember the so-called tree preservation bill, which was not about preserving trees. He may be visiting this council together with Representative John Faircloth at our May meeting. I hope everyone will join me in thanking Representative Hardister for his long service to our state, our county, and to Oak Ridge. He's done a lot for us. And I also want to finally thank the Finance Committee for their hard work. I've attended the last couple meetings, and as always, they look at everything very carefully, and I'm grateful for their recommendations and for their hard work. Thank you.
Mr. Stone.
I want to thank Carol for what she said up here. I'm in business, and I do training activities with
places all across the United States and part of Mexico. But one of the things that I hand out every time we start a training session is we call it the 7-step problem solving. And I just want to read the first two to you because I think that it goes directly to what Carol Kinnaman was saying. It says the group problem solving agreement is to succeed, we acknowledge that none of us knows everything. Diversity of opinion and thought is required to fully understand and resolve the problem. And we have confidence that any problem can be solved by this team. So we agree that there are 7 steps. The very first one is people are good. We assume that everyone comes to the discussion with honorable intentions. I'll leave this if anybody wants to see the other, but that's what we train by. As far as from a personal standpoint, I'm just going to make one statement and I'll be done. I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to work on my Mark 12:31. Maybe we should all work on our John 8:7s and our Matthew 7:3s. Thank you.
Mr. Greason?
No comment.
When a member of council asks for my advice, I give it honestly and fairly. As a political organization, there's always an element of strategy. That is what happened tonight. For my strategy to work, I needed not to communicate it in advance. And that's the only reason why, just like other members of council in the past do, we strategize and try to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So that's where that stands. Oak Ridge Methodist Church will have their regularly scheduled blood drive coming this Monday. So if you're able to donate blood, please do. I will try to have some of my cookies there. The Youth Association is having their baseball season opening on Saturday at noon at the elementary school. So I encourage you to come out and help them celebrate the opening of that. There is a craft show this Saturday. I don't believe the town is sponsoring that, but there is a craft show this Saturday also. As mentioned about the de-annexation, we have had a resolution in the past in support of that. So I encourage you to always contact your legislatures and make your opinions known about your position on any matter. The more they hear from you, the more likely they're going to either slow down or speed up something they're going to do. And with that, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?